I interviewed for ReliaQuest last week. And they asked very much things about networking. Then they pop SQL in and out. By the way, we aren't hiring. I was like, what? Really? And by the way, we aren't hiring. I was like, what? Why would they even talk to you about that? I don't know, man. They're probably trying to get you ready. Probably put you on the back burner. That's so hard right now. I mean, at this point, it's almost like I want to tell people, make yourself like so they have to hire you. Articulate perspectives, not just for me, but tell us about your thoughts on second products from Sony. Sound products from Sony. I don't know, man. It was my 4th interview. What? Oh, you may have dodged a bullet then. If they're telling you they're not hiring and it's their 4th interview, then either they meant we're not hiring right now, but you've passed and we'll call you in a month when we start hiring again. Or they're trying to say, you know, you're really awesome, but we're just not hiring right now. And they're lying to you and they're saying, we really don't want to hire you, but we don't have the courage to tell you that to your face. So it's one of the two. Can't be both. Yeah, that's I imagine that's what happened. That I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and that they went into it with good faith, and they started the interview process, and then they got shut down. Because that happened to me. The job that I got hired for at IBM went away while I was in the training. That happened. I was in training. I had been hired. I was in the month of indoctrination for IBM with my $80 New York per diem, which was so sweet, by the way. I mean, it was a party. Oh my God, it was a party. I felt so guilty because I was having so much fun during the training. They held the training in a hotel and in New York. And you know, my family, my wife at the time with the young kids, I just felt so guilty because I was like totally partying. I mean, not in like South Florida sense, but you know, and then it just went away. It literally went away. The position was gone and I was stuck at home on the bench, which means that you have to find your own job within a certain amount of time or they just kind of quietly let you go. And I had no idea. They just said, I'm sorry to let you know this, but the position we hired you for isn't there anymore. I said, so am I fired? They said, no, you're not fired. We wouldn't do that. We just put you through training. You're still here. Well, what am I supposed to do? Well, you know, find another job within the company. How do I do that? It's like, it was the craziest thing. It was the craziest thing. So here I am literally in my closet because I had to work from home. So I had this tiny little closet. I ripped all this stuff out. I even put my own power outlet in and didn't get a license for it. I probably would get in trouble for doing that. And so I'm in my laptop back there looking on mainframe. I was like logging into mainframe job posting systems using, you know, these mainframe tools for AS400 or not even AS400. It was mainframe stuff, you know. And I was like trying to find a job and I'm doing Nahamcon CTF. No, I didn't know there was one. Nahamcon. So yeah. Anyway, so my take on Kali is I think it is a totally fine tool to use. If that's what you got to grab it. Don't you have a job now? I do. This was a long time ago. You're coming into the middle of the conversation. This is when I got my job for IBM. Yeah, which was in 2000. Yeah, in 2000, that's when I was hired. I was headhunted out of Nike. I was working at Nike, and Nike was going through a bunch of real problems. Let me just tell you something that you should never do if you're a manager. Okay, this is a fun little story, and then I'll do something else. So I was working on the Nike.com team. I'd moved into the Nike.com team having been Nike's internet webmaster, which is a different department. I built their whole intranet and everything, and SwooshNet it was called. Anyway, I made it on the Nike.com team, which was a very, very high pressure. This was in 1989, and it was at the height of the .com craziness. Not the crash yet. It was just like so much money. The bubble was just super inflated. We'll talk about HR in a second. And so while I was there, I mean, it was literally at 1999, I would say, was the height of the .com mania. .com, you know, the web had really become a mainstream thing. all of the things were becoming, we're going into building new applications for the web. We had, pets.com, which famously went under later. Everything we had homegrown. I think there was a company in 1999 that would bring around your groceries to you. Everything was going on the web. Everything was going on the web. It was this big, massive migration. And it got so big that people who were coders who could code in Java or web were demanding massive salaries because there was so much money. It was at the end of just this craziness. There was the economy was booming. At least it seemed like it was booming. And if anybody knows the dot-com crash of 2000, which happened later, you'll know why. So anyway, in the middle of all that, it was 1999, and I concluded I was also put in charge of the web Y2K project, which is a big deal. I mean, in terms of like work, not like I was a big deal. It was like a lot of work. Anyway, that wrapped up, and I got on the Nike.com team. And then, but on the team, bless her heart, but the Nike.com webmaster was a librarian that they got for a good deal someplace. And she was extremely intelligent, but had almost in fact, zero experience doing web stuff, other than the stuff she did I had way more experience. I was kind of mad that I wasn't told about the position because I'd been at Nike for 3 years at that point and had done lots of things and gotten awards for building SwooshNet. And I wasn't even considered to run the Nike.com project because I had to ask to be considered. You know what? Just working in a big company sometimes really sucks because of the politics. If you don't know where the politics are, in fact, they limited the position to only those who progressively asked for positions. Well, I was taught to not just go around, pushing my weight around and asking. I thought if somebody needed me there, no. So anyway, long story, this is where it gets interesting. So it was a high pressure on Nike.com. Phil Knight had stood in front of a television camera in the Nike.com, like sort of open area, and given a whole thing while we were there, and told everybody that this really cool thing called Nike ID was going to be ready on this date. And that meant that you could order any kind of like logo or anything or writing on your shoes. And the massive amount of IT and the supply chain that had to happen to make that happen was just mind-boggling. And so, Jamie Barrett at White and Kennedy. I never actually worked with Jamie Barrett, but I know White and Kennedy. They were there all the time. Anyway, so about that time, and so Phil Knight, and. By the way, Phil Knight gave me, I don't know if I can say this publicly, Phil Knight indirectly gave me his seat to the Nike Nagano Olympics. I actually, this is not a lie. If you can find, I don't know how much I should say. So the internal communications director, it's a different story. Nagano 98, I was there, buddy. I was there. I covered the snowboarder party. I took pictures of them all. And cropped out the silo cups. I wrote about it actually. And so I kid you not, this is a true story. I don't know if I should say it. No, I was not in it. No. So that's a story all by itself. I'm trying to tell you about how I left Nike, not all the cool stuff. So, you should make a program that can replace HR. I would love to do that. So, anyway, I'll avoid that. If you guys want the Nagano story later, I can tell you how I ended up getting a ticket and met Fran Drescher and a whole bunch of other people in the Olympics and got to hang out with the Finnish and the Russian. it's a great story. I'll tell it another day. It was really great. But that whole story, by the way, the moral of that whole story is learning technology opens doors. It opens doors. Learning technology opens doors. But it also makes you have to be responsible. So I'm on the Nike.com team. So I missed this day, thankfully. I'm really glad I did because I probably would have come unglued. They had literally locked us in our cubicles with police tape, and they brought us. I kid you not, they would bring us salmon locks and all kinds of cheese plates and snacks and stuff because they didn't want us to leave our cubicles because we had to finish coding this thing that Phil Knight had promised, and everybody was losing their shit. They were like, they didn't have lives anymore. They were coding 24/7. Some of them were single, so they were fine. But those who had families, and I had young kids, And my ex, oh God, you should have seen that time she came in and just yelled at everybody in the room. She didn't care who it was. I thought I lost my job that moment. Turns out the next day they offered me a minimum raise, and they offered to pay for my transmission in my car to keep me there. So anyway, the bottom line is this. They got everybody in a room who was having trouble because they could feel everybody's, the pressure was mounting, and people were, things were going down. People were starting to get pissed and everything. And they put everybody in a room. I kid you not. They put the entire Nike.com team in a room, which is like some 30, 40 people. They stick them in a room, and they had this big announcement. And the managers told everybody, I don't remember the names of the managers. The managers got him in, and I wasn't there. Thank God I wasn't there. The manager said, we know this is really hard. We know that working on Nike.com is a sacrifice. We know that it has a higher demand of your personal commitment and blah, blah, blah. And we just want to let you know that you really need to get used to it. That's exactly what they said. They didn't even apologize. They didn't apologize. And the next day, I kid you not, by the end of that week, half of Nike.com quit. Half of them quit. Half of them quit, guys. Half of them quit. And I couldn't quit because I had young kids and I didn't hear it. I was like, what happened? Somebody told me about it the next day. And I was like, they told you what? So they put him in, and they actually tried to justify it. They said to everybody in the room, they said, you need to think of being on Nike.com as being in a .com. And that means a higher commitment. This is a .com. And you have to understand the sort of the ethos and the culture of the time. Saying that you worked for a .com meant that you did a lot of extra stuff. It's like saying you work for, oh, I don't know, what's that, like Bethesda today, right? It's like, oh yeah, we work 90 hours a week, but we love it. We love it. We love working on our game. We love it so much we work 90, 100 hours a week. So they not only did not apologize, they said, you are privileged to be in a Nike.com team. You're a .com company, and I want you to think about it that way. No extra shares, no nothing. In fact, at the time, I kid you not, at the time, I was making $38,000 a year in 1999. In 1999, I was making $38,000 a year for that shithole of a company. And, just looking back at it now, they totally raped beginners who wanted to go work for Nike.com because they thought it was cool. And they just beat us to death. And the people who were smart enough left. So there's a couple things to this. So when they said, suck it up, it's a .com, and lost half of their team, guess what happened? Yeah, you got your free Nike.com tickets and everything. But also it's the worst place for sure. It's a great place to work, guys. It's a fun environment for the most part. It's very inbred, by the way. Oh my God, anybody will tell you that. It's very, very inbred. So and so over here is having a thing with there, and there's their son who works over here, who's from this girl over here. I mean, the upper echelons of Nike are so inbred. It's really crazy. I mean, and they're kind of insulated. They kept the IT people far away. We call outside the berm because they're not sexy enough to be inside of the berm. They would have Thirst Thursdays, or they get drunk on Thursdays. I was on a Hood to Coast team. I mean, I could make a total expose about life at Nike if I really wanted to. I mean, but I got a lot of good opportunities. I interviewed John McEnroe. I met him and his kids. Actually, we ran I coded an internal chat tool. So we did a live chat with a video stream. And this is talking about 98. So I wrote a live stream and a blog application to do live streaming. We interviewed Tiger Woods. We held a panel with Phil Knight and the rest. I actually coded all this stuff for that so that we could have a conversation about labor relations because there was a lot of turmoil at the time within Nike. Anyway, the main reason I'm telling you this whole story, I hope so. I mean, the main reason I'm telling you that this was way before all of the Lance Armstrong shit went down. This is right before they became Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong kind of took over for Michael Jordan as the favorite, corporate sponsored person. And then of course all that shit went down way after I was gone. But here's what happens. So I had kept my relationships up with the other people in the room and Nike.com. So one of the guys who left, he went to another place. So, and then it was, no, I actually, no, Tiger, that was tough because I actually wrote all the software for everything like that. And I wasn't actually personally able to interview Tiger Woods. There's some massive drama that happened that I won't get into, but because I went to the Nike.com team, the people I left behind got to do the Tiger Woods interview, even though I wrote all the software for it and set it all up and got them going with it again. I wasn't allowed to be there because I wasn't on that team anymore. I was now on Nike.com. I hate corporate politics. Can I tell you, I hate it. I am so happy to be free of it, and hopefully you guys can be free of it too. Anyway, so the good part of the story is, and this is true story. This is a true story. So one of the guys that left, was a really good guy. He didn't call me, but I started getting calls from recruiters a lot. Yeah, nobody does. How's it going? So he calls me. I started getting lots of calls from recruiters during the time when I was trying to code, and they were calling me at Nike, which is very unusual. And I mean, and every time I pick up a call, I was like, it was a recruiter. I was like, it's my wife or something. There's no way to know. It was old school. And so I'd pick it up and it'd be a recruiter and say, hey, I just want, somebody, blah, blah, blah. And I got so annoyed by it because they were trying to pilfer. It was .com time, right? It was .com time. So it was extremely crazy. People who don't work in love corporate politics, it was extremely crazy because there was so much money in working in .com and Java, particularly at the time, that if you did it, you were like, they were constantly coming at you. Recruiters were constantly coming at you to try to get you to work for them. And so you had to kind of turn your phone off or unplug it or something because they were always trying to get you to go to jump ship and go to their company. And so I developed a kind of a standard response. They would call me, and my response was, look, it says, I appreciate your call. I appreciate you thinking about me. But if you can't offer me this number, it's not even really worth my time. And I made the number so high, and you have to understand at the time, the number for me was 80 grand. And today 80 grand is like nothing in the tech world. Right. But the number was 80 grand. And I said, unless you can pay me, you gotta understand, I was making 35 grand at the time in the 90s. And I was like, but I didn't want to rock the boat. I had young kids at home. I wanted to keep the insurance and everything. I was really paranoid. I was a sole breadwinner because I was Mormon, which is a whole different topic. Anyway, so so I would just say, unless you can do double this, and I give them a figure, and they'd say, okay, fine, well, I'll let you know then. And then they'd hang the phone up. And this one guy called me, and the first thing he said was, I want you to know that so-and-so by name recommended you and said that you are the perfect guy to hire for this particular thing. And he really talked highly of you, and IBM is hiring for a position, and we really want you. And I said, look, that's really nice. I appreciate that. But unless you can pay me this amount of money at least, or you can at least double the salary of mine, it's really not worth talking to me because it's that big of an inconvenience for me to move. And he said, no problem. he said, no problem. Can you be in Dallas next week? And I was like, what do you mean no problem? And so I went home that day. I will never forget it. I remember talking to my wife at the time in our laundry room about it, and just sitting on the dryer trying to think through what was happening. I was like beaming. I was like totally beaming. It's like that moment when you realize that you actually have learned enough to be more valuable than you have been valued. And so there's a couple, kind of cathartic pieces of this story left over to tell. So I went to Dallas, and first of all, it was awesome. I mean, they met all these guys. And so I was actually interviewing, So I was actually interviewing with, a bunch of newbies, and they, which was great. I mean, yeah, they were all newbies. They were all there. And we were all interviewing, and I was like, man, these guys are like, 5, 10 years, 15 years younger than me. And I didn't care. I was like, I thought, well, this is fun. And frankly, if I didn't get the job, I had to take a week vacation, which was really hard to do during that time. And I did it, and they offered me the job right there. I didn't have to do any Can I just say, IBM has got lots of things that people don't like about them, and they're a big old blue company. They got lots of flaws, but their interview process was awesome. They just brought us in. They looked at our experience. They had us talk about what we had done, and they didn't pepper us with horrible questions. And they had 2 interviewers, and I had like maybe 2 or 3 hours of interviews. And by the end of the day, I had an offer. That's actually happened. If anybody's gone through the hiring process with some of these companies today, you know how refreshing that was. And it turned out I talked to my recruiter. The recruiter was there with me. He was a fantastic guy. I lost contact with him. If you ever get contact with a really great recruiter, one you really trust and really love, hold on to that recruiter for your whole life. Don't let go of them. Even if you don't think you're going anywhere, write their number down, send them a Christmas card, because that recruiter, even after I was at IBM, a year after I was at IBM, and I'd already made my move and everything, he would call me and say, "You're still happy there? You still happy there?" It was like an agent. So I'm actually probably going to put this video out there on YouTube, because the moral of the story here is, if you're going to become the best you can possibly be in technology, you need to think of yourself like a Michael Jordan, or somebody like that, Kobe Bryant, or unfortunately he passed, but somebody who is a rock star who doesn't have time to do a lot of job chasing, because the sooner you can get a recruiter who's going to make bank on you, by the way. They make, in this particular case, they didn't say specifically, but I have a feeling it was about 20% of my first year's salary. And I think that's pretty standard. That's a lot of money. Recruiters make a lot of money, and they are really, really motivated to make you look fantastic. I've actually had a recruiter here that I worked with in Charlotte. Nice kind of person too, didn't work out, but what they did is they would actually show up to the interview because they were so used to doing tech interviews that they wanted to see you before you went to the interview. They want to make sure you had a tie on and they dressed properly and everything. So particularly if you're a technologist, make sure. So the moral there is to get a recruiter who can help you. Don't underestimate your value. Go to Indeed and other places like that and look what your value is. And just make sure you have the proof, and then go in confidently, and don't ask for what your vacation time is going to be first thing. Solve the problems for them. So that was a good story. It was a nice, but the flip side of the story is, after I got the job, my job went away within the first 30 days of being hired. And so I was on the bench, and I had to go find my own job within the company. And so finding a job is a skill that you have to have, even if you get hired by a big company, because you have got to constantly be checking your own job skills. And there's a good chance that when you're if you're good, that your manager, particularly, you're going to make them look good, and they're going to want to let go of you. And it takes a very, woke manager to say, "I understand, for your growth, you need to leave me, but it's going to leave me out hanging." And remorse leaving. She actually gave me a little trolling jab on the way out. She goes, "Oh, so you're leaving us, huh?" Yeah. She goes, "Well, looks like we wasted all that training money we spent on you." She actually said that as parting words on the way out. And I was like, "Do you have any idea how badly you just burned this bridge?" I was like, "How dare you? How dare you?" I mean, there's only one other manager that was worse, and I won't get into him. Mr. Ron from IBM, may you not rest in peace if you're still alive. You will have many. That's kind of weird that he's the same name as my best manager ever at IBM too. I just realized that. So, finding somebody who appreciates your value, but ultimately, until you leave, you're not going to be able to cash in. You need to. It's like flipping houses in the real estate market. And some people just don't understand labor relations. They aren't giving you anything. You are giving them the surplus of your labor, like it was her money. Yeah, BlackBerry didn't give me an interview. I need a cover letter. Well, you guys will figure it out. I have every confidence that you'll make it out there. Cylance. Oh, I wish I could work there. BlackBerry owns Cylance? Really? Really? Oh, that's a cool. These guys don't know what Cylance is. So Cylance is this AI software that has it's security software that has AI in it. It's pretty damn cool stuff. antivirus program, other kind. In fact, it proactively sort of identifies. It doesn't look for a fingerprint. It kind of like looks for things that look similar to. It's really cool software. That would be a great company to work with. I had kind of had the same goodbye. You know, they're going to close that place 13 years later. It did. I tripled my salary. Yeah, that was the strangest. The biggest kick. The reason I didn't have any regret parting with that particular manager is because they had been paying me less than 50%. I more than doubled my salary moving. So that is the true statement about how somebody truly values you. And I'm sorry, and if you're in a yeah, the question mark, it's not a package. That's something I made. You guys want it? I can show it to you. Want me to show you how to make it? It's actually pretty easy once you have links. If you say sim or eSIM. All right, so let me show you the little search engine that I wrote if you guys want to do that. Let me put a mark in this though. Twitch mark and let's see Nike, end Nike story. So there you go.